The opinions and recommendations expressed by Dan are his own and do not necessarily represent the opinions of this station or any of the show's sponsors.
All the major indices in positive territory. The Dow's up 20 right now. Oil continues to run up, so we're going to have to watch that, and we'll watch it very closely. I do have some concerns about that. Anyway, let's get back to the phones. We were talking to Todd. Todd is thinking about setting up a group home with 3 other partners, and he's talking about putting his credit, I guess, on the line here. Todd, so is this a home that is for seniors or mentally handicapped, physically handicapped? What kind of group home is it?
It's for adults, and they could be physically or mentally handicapped.
Okay. And
federally funded. The state is getting ready to shut down some facilities, and I guess they figure it's cheaper to put them in group homes if they can. So a couple of our investors have done group homes for other people for 7 or 8 years. So I think we have the expertise to do it, and me and another guy are responsible for most of the money to get us started. But I'm the only guy who pre-qualifies to actually get a loan so that we can get the house and get it up and running. So I was wondering if I'm violating any of God's laws by actually putting my signature down and kind of being the guy to get it going, or that'd be my first question. But secondly, just with the times going on at they are with the economy and everything, is this wise for us to do it, or is this something maybe we should wait to do to kind of see how this Obamacare and other things might come into play, or just not 100% confident in the times that we're living in right now? This is what we should be doing.
Here's what my concern would be, Todd. And no, I think your heart is in the right place. I think you're doing a great work. If you can do this, I think it's certainly needed. So I don't see an issue from a biblical perspective. My concern from a business perspective is that as I read and try to understand Obamacare, and maybe you've heard me say this before on the air, but I know I said it several times. I've said it several times, more than several times, before it was passed and after it was passed. And one of the things that was most concerning to me was that our seniors are going to be denied certain care as a result of this. And our children that I say are, I believe, some of them just, are children that are handicapped, whether it be mentally or physically, just angels of God in the way they minister to so many people, are the other ones that are going to suffer. Now, you can never get a straight answer from anybody about that. And because I could never get a straight answer from anybody about that, I did the research and try to find, after talking with an expert on the plan, try to find those pages and read it for myself, and I did. So I probably don't have to tell you where my concern is. My concern, obviously, is the federal funding for these kinds of homes going to be considered worthy of priority as the federal government and the panels in the federal government will continue to pick and choose and look at all these situations where you're going to have bureaucrats in Washington making decisions as to whether this ought to be funded or not. And it scares the living daylights out of me when I think about that, not only because of the moral and ethical implications of those folks in Washington making those horrible decisions that they're likely to make, but it's going to impact people like you that are making these business decisions. So, I don't think it's going to be the way it is now, where it becomes a state of Virginia Medicaid program. as it's been in the past. So Medicaid, as you probably know by now, from doing research, obviously a federally funded and a federal program, but administered by different states, is going to change. It's got to. And I am concerned about that. And I think that, I can't give you any advice on what to do in reference to how Obamacare is going to impact that, because though I have some assumptions, I don't think anybody's really going to know. I don't think anybody knows anything about what's really going to happen. I mean, some of us expecting the worst, some of us not, but we're not going to know until probably 2016 before things really start to come together, and we know for a fact that certain things are or are not going to be impacted. And so I don't have a concern moving forward with the project. I do have a concern with you being the guy that has everything on the line, because I don't want you to lose your home over, over a situation that just does not work out the way it should. And frankly, I think partnerships always are very, very difficult. It's like a marriage, and, you have to be evenly yoked. You have to be evenly sharing in the liabilities if you're going to evenly share in the profitability, or even if you're not, you got to be evenly yoked in the liabilities, because there's bitterness that occurs when that doesn't happen. If things start to go sour, it falls apart very quickly. So my advice to anybody that's forming a partnership, unless you've got a situation where you've got a guy coming in saying, I'll give you the money, I want 5% on my money, and I want 10% of the profits, and I'm a silent guy and I don't have anything to do with it. That's a different kind of partnership. But if you've got active partners, then I really feel like somehow you got to try to make it work with a partnership that you share equally in the liabilities. Once the bank or a financing company knows what you personally have, and your ability to get, on your signature, it's over, because they're never going to, go back on that, But, and if you have 4 partners, 5 partners, 10 partners, you're all going to sign personally on the loan. But it's the old story. You can't get blood from a stone. So if they need to get something, it's going to Todd. It's not going to everybody else as far as the banks are concerned. So I just feel like, the liability has to be equally shared. And what that means is not just a signature, but there has to be the means behind that signature to pay their quarter or their half or their 2/3 or whatever it is that they might have. I mean, there's got to be the money there or the assets there to back it up. And if it isn't, then I think you're taking a very big chance in a very volatile time in the healthcare market or in the Obamacare market, in a federal funding marketplace, not to mention the economy. So I just think that it is an awfully big risk. And, you and your family have to be very much on board with the risk if you're going to do it in that way. So I wish I could say what I know is going to happen through Obamacare in that situation. I don't, but I don't think anybody does. And I don't think you can get the answer on that from anybody. But I do think that if nothing else, if you go along and do it, I think everybody's got to have the ability to equally share in that. I don't think it can be all you.
Okay. I guess we would have an asset with the house that we could always turn around and try to sell it and recoup some of our losses if it did go south. But we have everything drawn up as to how things are supposed to play out. And in the event that it doesn't go the way that we hope, that there is losses to be paid, that it's supposed to be equally shared 20% amongst everybody. But I guess, like you said, my name's the one on the mortgage, and I guess they'd come after me first.
Well, what would happen is they're going to come after you, and then it's going to be your responsibility to make everybody else live up to their end of the agreement. And like I said, you can't get blood from a stone. So if they don't really have it, you're going to spend, thousands in legal fees to try to get something you may never get. And it is so it's not good enough that it's on paper. You've got to know for certain that the assets are there. And if the assets are there, I would want them to personally sign on the banknote, not just an agreement, but sign on the banknote. So the bank will have a responsibility to legally go after all of you and not just after you. I mean, that's very, very important. So, the bank doesn't care that you're going to have to start legal proceedings to get, the other parties involved. They don't care about that. They don't need to care about that because you have the assets that are covered. You know what I mean? So
yes.
I just want you to think about, that and your family and, what that means to you. I don't know how old you are. You may be young. You may be able to go back to work and make great income and, or not go back to work, but continue to work, make great income. And, a step backwards at this point in your life may not be a big deal, but it may be a big deal. And if it is a big deal, then I think you really got to think long and hard about it. So my suggestion to you, Todd, is that you consult with your family and you, most importantly, you lay it at the throne and you pray about it and see how the Lord might lead.
Okay, well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate everything you do.
All right, Todd. Thank you. I appreciate that. Wish you all the best with that. That's, it's a difficult thing. I always hate to discourage. I don't want to discourage any entrepreneur from doing any work and to get out there and do something that's going to be good for the community and potentially good. I mean, but we sometimes get so immersed in the numbers, the pros of this. Ifs it works out, if we fill the place, if the state and the government continues its funding, and if that there's going to be a profitable situation in the midst of us doing a good work. There's going to be a profitable situation. And we sometimes get so caught up into that we start forgetting that there is a possibility that it might not work out. 5 years ago, I would not have had an issue. Not because of the economy 5 years ago, but because of the lack of Obamacare, or not knowing, feeling pretty secure about Medicaid and what was on the horizon for federal funding for those things. Let me go to Dennis in North Carolina. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, Dan. Quick question on retirement. I'll be 62 in 14 months. I have accumulated with my 401k and my company. If I take the lump sum, I'm looking right now at $700,000. Well, the first question is, do you think if I did decide to retire at 62 with Social Security and take 4% disbursement on the $700,000, that I could possibly get 30 years out of it, or maybe?
Well, here's what I think you ought to do, Dennis. I think you need to kind of work backwards, and what I mean by that is take a look at what you believe is going to be your consumption rate. In other words, so I'm 62 years old. I'm going to have expenditures of X amount of dollars. I'm just going to make up some numbers just to give you an example. So I'm going to need to have $3,000 worth of income just to meet our consumption, what we're going to spend and how we're going to live. And I know I'm going to get $1,500 from Social Security. So I got a $1,500 shortfall. And I'm going to take a perspective that I want to try to lock in the other $500, or the other $1,500, I'm sorry. And I'm going to try to lock that in. What I would do with those kinds of funds is I would definitely think first about a well thought out plan that is going to allow you to create some permanent income. And I just finished a paper on this, and I can't wait to get it to you. I hope you'll call and request it when I'm done, when it's in print, in reference to us thinking about consumption and spending. But I think you ought to peel off some of it and create either a charitable trust or a charitable gift annuity with some of it, and try to take care of your consumption. Cut down what you're going to live off with the rest of it to maybe 2%, thereby making up all that you need. And I think that makes far more sense. And try to look at that model. Call me back or call the AFA Foundation and talk to me about that. We'll try to get in touch with you, and I'll try to help you out a little bit more. I'm right up against a break. Got to run. We'll be right back after the news.